So you had a gun in your purse?
I had a gun in my purse, and this guy wouldn't leave me alone because he was just sure I was playing hard to get and that I was really...
I get very emotional when people...
For decades, the world has known Dolly Parton as a glittering icon of music, philanthropy, and unmistakable charm. A woman whose voice could command the largest stages and whose smile could light up entire arenas. Yet behind that radiant public persona existed a love story so private, so fiercely protected, that it became almost mythical in an age of relentless celebrity exposure. While cameras followed her from Nashville to Hollywood, from sold-out concerts to red carpets, one man remained intentionally out of frame, choosing quiet devotion over public recognition, stability over spotlight, and intimacy over attention. Carl Dean, Dolly's husband of nearly 6 decades, built his life not on applause but on consistency, not on headlines but on home. And in a world obsessed with visibility, their relationship endured because it was rooted in something far deeper than public image. It began in 1964 outside a laundromat in Nashville, Tennessee, when a young Dolly, newly arrived and brimming with ambition, caught the attention of a man who saw not a future superstar, but a woman. That first meeting was simple, almost ordinary, yet it marked the beginning of one of the most enduring marriages in entertainment history. 2 years later, they quietly married in a small ceremony in Georgia, deliberately keeping it intimate, avoiding industry noise, choosing instead to build something sacred away from scrutiny. As Dolly's career skyrocketed through the 1970s and 1980s, transforming her into a global country music legend with hits like Jolene, 9 to 5, and I Will Always Love You, Carl Dean remained steadfastly private, rarely appearing in public, rarely giving interviews, content to support her from the background. In interviews over the years, Dolly often described him as her anchor, her grounding force, the man who preferred asphalt paving business conversations over award show galas, who loved rock music while she ruled country charts, whose personality contrasted hers in ways that somehow made everything stronger. Their differences, rather than dividing them, created balance. While she sparkled outwardly, he fortified inwardly. While she entertained millions, he protected their peace. And perhaps that very separation between public brilliance and private stillness became the secret to their longevity. Through decades of cultural shifts, industry transformations, and personal milestones, their marriage remained remarkably intact. There were no reality shows, no tell-all interviews from Carl, no orchestrated couple branding. Instead, there were quiet evenings at home, road trips taken away from flashing cameras, and a mutual understanding that fame did not define the boundaries of their relationship. Dolly often joked that one reason their marriage worked was because they spent time apart, not emotionally distant, but physically independent enough to maintain individuality. She toured extensively. He maintained his own business and lifestyle. And yet, when she returned home, the world's most recognizable country star became simply a wife. That distinction mattered deeply to her. She spoke frequently about how Carl never tried to compete with her spotlight, never sought to capitalize on her fame, and never asked her to shrink her ambition. Instead, he admired her drive, encouraged her creativity, and supported her philanthropic dreams, including the launch of the Imagination Library, which has gifted millions of books to children worldwide. Behind the rhinestones and wigs, behind the stadium lights and standing ovations, there existed a partnership built on trust, humor, and unshakable loyalty. In recent years, as Dolly entered her late 70s and reflected more openly on her legacy, she spoke with increasing tenderness about Carl. She described their love not as dramatic or flashy, but steady and real. She recalled how he preferred to avoid industry events, how he once attended an award ceremony early in her career, and afterward gently told her that the spotlight simply wasn't for him. Rather than feeling offended, she respected his honesty. That mutual respect became a cornerstone. They created boundaries long before celebrity boundaries were a trending topic. They protected each other's privacy before social media made privacy nearly impossible. And as the years advanced, that early commitment to separation from spectacle seemed almost prophetic. In a time when many celebrity marriages dissolved under pressure, theirs endured quietly. The beauty of their story lies not in grand public declarations, but in subtle gestures, handwritten notes, private jokes, spontaneous weekend drives through Tennessee countryside. Dolly once shared that Carl loved her in comfortable clothes just as much as in glamorous stage attire, that he appreciated the woman beyond the icon. For someone whose image is so carefully curated, that kind of unconditional acceptance carries immeasurable weight. It allowed her to remain authentic in a world demanding constant reinvention. It gave her emotional security while navigating professional risks. And perhaps most importantly, it gave her a sanctuary, a place where she did not have to perform. As Dolly's achievements accumulated, Grammy Awards, induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, film success, business ventures like Dollywood. The narrative of her marriage became even more fascinating precisely because it resisted commodification. Carl Dean never sought validation from fans or media. He never attempted to redefine himself as part of a celebrity power couple. He remained who he was from the beginning, a private man who fell in love outside a laundromat and chose devotion over display. That steadfast identity may be one of the most romantic aspects of their journey. In a culture that often equates love with visibility, they proved that depth does not require documentation. When Dolly speaks about aging, she does so with humor and grace, but beneath that humor is deep gratitude. Gratitude for time shared, for memories built, for ordinary days that became extraordinary simply because they were experienced together. Long-term love is not built solely on passion. It is sustained by patience, forgiveness, and adaptability. Over nearly 60 years, they navigated career demands, public scrutiny, health challenges, and the natural changes that come with time. Yet through each chapter, they returned to the same foundation: friendship. Dolly has often emphasized that laughter played a significant role in their relationship. They teased each other, surprised each other, maintained a playful spirit that prevented routine from turning into stagnation. There is something profoundly instructive in their story. It suggests that partnership does not require identical personalities. It suggests that independence within marriage can strengthen rather than weaken connection. It suggests that privacy can be protective rather than secretive. And it demonstrates that even in industries defined by impermanence, permanence is possible. Theirs was not a fairy tale devoid of effort. It was a deliberate choice made repeatedly over decades. Every tour departure followed by a homecoming. Every business success grounded by a return to normalcy. Every public triumph balanced by private conversation. As Dolly continues to create music and inspire generations, the quiet presence of Carl Dean remains woven into her narrative, whether visible or not. He represents stability in a career defined by movement. He represents constancy in a life defined by evolution. And perhaps most beautifully, he represents a love that never needed public applause to validate its existence. In interviews, Dolly has said that if she had to do it all over again, she would choose him again. That simple statement, spoken without spectacle, carries more emotional resonance than any red carpet display. In the end, what makes their love story extraordinary is not glamour, but endurance. Not spectacle, but sincerity. It reminds us that behind even the brightest stars are quiet rooms where real life unfolds, where fame is set aside, where two people share conversations that never reach microphones. Their story stands as a testament to the power of choosing each other consistently, of valuing partnership over publicity, of building a life that does not depend on external validation. And as time continues its steady march forward, the legacy of their love becomes intertwined with Dolly's artistic legacy. a reminder that success is sweetest when shared with someone who knew you before the world did, and loved you not for what you became, but for who you were from the very beginning. As the years moved forward, what made their relationship even more compelling was not simply its length, but its resilience against a culture that constantly tests permanence. The entertainment industry has always had a way of amplifying pressure. Tours stretch for months. Film projects demand relocation. Interviews dissect personal lives. Yet through every season of Dolly's extraordinary rise, Carl Dean remained intentionally rooted. He did not resent her spotlight. He simply did not need it. That quiet self-assurance created a dynamic rare in celebrity marriages. There was no competition for attention, no struggle for shared headlines, no negotiation over public identity. He knew who he was. She knew who she was. And neither required the other to shrink. Dolly has often described herself as a dreamer, someone whose imagination has been her greatest asset. From songwriting to storytelling, from business ventures to philanthropy, she thrives on vision. Carl, by contrast, represented practicality. He ran his asphalt paving business for decades, waking up early, focusing on tangible outcomes, grounded in everyday realities. That contrast may have been their greatest strength. When Dolly envisioned a theme park in the Smoky Mountains, what would later become Dollywood, it was Carl who listened without judgment, who allowed her space to explore, who believed in her instincts even if he preferred to remain miles away from the ribbon-cutting ceremonies. His belief did not require attendance. It required trust. Trust, after all, is the quiet architecture of longevity. In interviews, Dolly has hinted that the key to their marriage was giving each other freedom. Freedom to pursue passions, freedom to grow individually, freedom to remain curious about life. In a world that often equates love with possession, they practiced something different: partnership without control. She toured the globe. He stayed home. She met presidents, musicians, actors, and world leaders. He maintained his routines, yet neither questioned the foundation beneath them. That foundation was built long before fame complicated the landscape. There were times, of course, when the outside world attempted to intrude. Rumors occasionally surfaced, as they inevitably do when someone becomes as globally recognized as Dolly Parton. But what made those rumors powerless was the couple's refusal to engage. They did not stage public rebuttals. They did not feed speculation with emotional reactions. Instead, they relied on something far older than headlines: private conversation. In many ways, their silence became a shield. By declining to perform their marriage for public consumption, they preserved its authenticity. As Dolly entered later chapters of her career, reflecting on legacy and impact, her tone when discussing Carl often softened into something deeply contemplative. She spoke about aging together, about watching each other change, about the tenderness that comes with decades of shared memory. Long-term love accumulates layers. Inside jokes no one else understands, traditions repeated year after year, subtle gestures that communicate volumes. She once mentioned how he would surprise her with small, thoughtful acts rather than grand displays. A favorite meal prepared, a spontaneous short drive, a quiet compliment whispered when no one else was listening. These are not tabloid moments. They are real ones. And perhaps that is what makes their story resonate so profoundly. In an era dominated by curated social media affection and performative romance, their love existed almost defiantly off-camera. It was not designed for likes or viral clips. It was not packaged for branding. It simply was. Enduring, steady, present. Dolly has also acknowledged that maintaining mystery played a role in sustaining their connection. By keeping Carl largely out of public view, she preserved something sacred. The world could access her music, her interviews, her business ventures, but not the core of her marriage, That core remained theirs alone. In protecting it, she protected herself. Fame can consume identity if boundaries are not fiercely maintained. Carl's absence from the spotlight was not distance. It was protection. There is something poetic about the way their relationship mirrors the themes in Dolly's music. Many of her songs speak of longing, devotion, heartbreak, independence, and resilience. Those emotional landscapes did not emerge from fantasy alone. They were informed by a life fully lived, by a marriage that provided security while allowing creative vulnerability. To write about love authentically, one must understand its complexities. Dolly did, and behind that understanding was a man who gave her emotional safety. As conversations about legacy grow more frequent with time, Dolly has increasingly emphasized gratitude, not only for career achievements, but for the personal stability that made those achievements sustainable. Success without emotional grounding can feel hollow. In her case, the grounding was constant. When stages emptied and applause faded, she returned home to familiarity, to someone who knew her before awards defined her, to someone who loved her before the world applauded her. It's important to recognize that enduring love is rarely dramatic. It does not thrive on chaos. It flourishes in consistency, in choosing each other repeatedly even when novelty fades, in adapting through health changes, shifting priorities, evolving dreams. Nearly 6 decades of marriage inevitably include moments of disagreement, fatigue, adjustment. Yet Dolly has consistently framed those moments not as fractures, but as growth. She has spoken about compromise not as surrender, but as collaboration. Their story also quietly challenges stereotypes about celebrity partnerships. It proves that two people can occupy vastly different public roles and still remain deeply connected. That introversion and extroversion can coexist. That ambition and simplicity can harmonize. Carl Dean never needed to redefine himself as Mr. Dolly Parton. He remained Carl, and she remained Dolly. The equality in that dynamic is subtle but powerful. As fans continue to celebrate Dolly's contributions to music and philanthropy, there is a growing recognition that her personal life, particularly her marriage, has been one of her most remarkable accomplishments, not because it was flashy, but because it endured. In interviews, she sometimes jokes about how curious people are about Carl, how they speculate about why he avoids cameras. She laughs, but beneath that laughter is a clear message. Some things are meant to remain private, and so the love story that began outside a Nashville laundromat continues to symbolize something rare. It symbolizes devotion without spectacle, partnership without performance, fame without fragmentation. It reminds us that behind every public legend can exist a deeply ordinary, profoundly beautiful private life. In reflecting on their journey, one sees not just romance, but respect, not just affection, but admiration. Dolly has often expressed that Carl's independence is one of the qualities she values most. He never tried to reshape her. He never demanded center stage. He simply stood beside her, sometimes literally, often figuratively, unwavering. As time moves forward, the legacy of their relationship becomes intertwined with cultural memory. It stands as a counter-narrative to the fleeting nature of modern celebrity unions. It offers reassurance that enduring love is still possible, that privacy can be strength, that loyalty can outlast trends. And perhaps the most powerful aspect of their story is this: it was never about proving anything to the world. It was about choosing each other quietly, repeatedly, intentionally. In that quiet choosing lies the true magic. Not the rhinestones, not the stadium lights, not the headlines, but the simple, profound act of loving someone steadily through every season of life.